The Rex Ball story was once considered a minor classic of Fortean folklore, and it's still worth remembering. John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies made the case known to the many readers of that book, even though the story has nothing to do with Mothmen. Keel got the location wrong. He placed the incident in Georgia. In fact, it took place in Geneseo, Illinois, if it happened at all, which I doubt. Here's the story. Late one night in 1940, industrial chemist Rex Ball was making a long drive from Detroit through Illinois when he passed a train carrying an unusual payload. Tired, he pulled over for a rest. Just before he drifted off, 3 small but powerful men kidnapped him and marched him toward a circular airship hovering atop blue flames. Keep in mind, 1940 predated the Kenneth Arnold sighting which initiated the flying saucer era. A short man in a green aviator's uniform stood on the deck of this craft. The man seemed Asian. Specifically, he looked like an Ainu from Japan. For unknown reasons, Ball passed out. He awakened to find himself in the custody of soldiers within a complex of rooms apparently located underground. The saucer pilots may have been Asian, but the soldiers were all American. They told him, "You are now under Fort Knox." Ball, knowing full well that Fort Knox is in Kentucky, considered this statement absurd. In a briefing room, Ball confronted a general who seemed strangely familiar, a blonde female aide who was very unsettling, and a number of men in civilian clothing. The general ordered, "Take him back, seal his mouth, call him a nut." Soldiers dragged Ball past a display of ray guns and props and paraphernalia appropriate to a science fiction movie, the sort of movie they weren't really making in 1940. Then, once again, he passed out. He awakened in a small hospital in Geneseo, Illinois. As he searched his memories, the non-sequiturs became obvious. If the saucer were an American project, why did he see Asians? What made him pass out? And what was that Fort Knox remark supposed to mean? That's the story. Did anything like it actually happen? As near as I could tell, the first public mention of the Ball case appeared in an obscure 1968 book titled Document 96, A Rationale for Flying Saucers, written by one Frank Martin Chase and published by Saucerian Publications. Unless you're an old-school UFO buff, you've probably never heard of that publishing house. Saucerian belonged to the notorious Gray Barker. He was a merry mythologist who loved to inject paranoia into the flying saucer subculture. Document 96 promulgates the theory that UFOs are man-made. One online source claims that Chase is a pseudonym for W. Anson Sperry, about whom I can discover nothing. Since neither Sperry nor Chase appear to have written anything else, and since the book reflects Gray Barker's own thoughts and writing style, it is fair to suppose that Barker himself wrote Document 96. So who was Gray Barker? Born in 1925, he was a theatrical booker who befriended an early-day ufologist named Alfred Bender. Bender headed up a fairly well-known group dedicated to researching the topic. One day, Bender suddenly shut down his organization. He left the field. Barker spread the story that 3 men in black suits had warned Bender away from doing further research, and that was the beginning of the Men in Black legend. Barker also created a fake document which asserted that the government had taken a deep interest in self-proclaimed UFO contactee George Adamski. In 1966, Barker helped to create this film using a flying saucer on a fishing line. His co-conspirator, Jim Moseley, once stated that Barker thought all of ufology was a big joke. Barker told another compatriot, John C. Sherwood, "I cannot, again off the record, bear for very long most of the people and the fans of saucerdom, mainly because most of them are oral aggressors, i.e., they talk all the time about saucers and they make you listen." Barker summarized his years as a saucermonger in a poem titled, "UFO is a bucket of shit." I suspect that Barker began with a serious interest in the topic, but then he segued into cynicism. The subculture has always attracted paranoia junkies, and Gray Barker decided to become a dope peddler. If you needed an armload, he'd fix you right up. The addiction he fed has, over the decades, spread far beyond ufology, and now the world is what it is. As Sherwood once wrote, if Gray Barker were alive today, he'd think he'd died and gone to heaven. There are still a few fear addicts out there who think that the Rex Ball tale is true. If you believe that in 1940 it was possible to brainwash any random commuter, rapidly and easily, then frankly in my eyes you really do look like a nut. The only airfields near Geneseo are the Quad City Skydiving Center, a mile east of town, and something called Black Airport, which now seems to be farmland. It was located 4 miles to the north. Neither location is near a railroad. I see absolutely no evidence that the military ever had a presence here. It would have been pretty difficult to build an underground base in the 1930s without word leaking out. Genealogical websites reveal the existence of several Rex balls whose dates fit this story. I have no way of determining which ball is the ball. Maybe none of them are. Did any actual event give rise to the strange tale of Rex Ball? I strongly doubt it, though I'll revise that opinion if someone produces real evidence. As things stand, I believe that Barker concocted a fable to illustrate a personal theory. He was a man with lots of theories, and he didn't care if they were viable, provable, or even likely, just as long as they were weird.